Okay, you can go ahead.
Wonderful. Again, thank you everybody for coming on the call tonight. We'll call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen, special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order here at 8:07 p.m. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, First Selectman, Bob Carlson, Selectman, Edith Kincaid, Selectwoman, Christine Dias, Admin Finance for the town. There's only one item on the agenda tonight, and that's the contract negotiation for 298 Norwich Westerly Road, which is the North Stonington Education Center, which is the old middle high school. Basically, just to give a quick brief summary and information, we on Tuesday evening had an executive session with the negotiations team to discuss the terms of the lease that we are looking to enter into with the potential tenant for the a portion of the space in the middle school. Just so everyone who's kind of unfamiliar with how these things work in government, there's a couple of reasons that we would do an executive session, and there's really only four. And one of them is contract negotiations. So that's why it's not a public process. Obviously, I'm sure everyone can understand why that would be with regards to negotiations. But in the interest of making sure that we had transparency and certainly the interest that folks have in this transaction, we wanted to have an additional meeting kind of above and beyond what was really necessary to go through the basics of what this lease is going to entail, and then have the opportunity for public comment or feedback on it. So I'll give a brief overview. We released this information yesterday, but I'll do a screen share so that way you can see the lease summary. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is just a summary of what the terms of the lease are going to look like. So it's basically the North Stonington Education Center. The area to be leased, if you look at the building from an aerial view, is what's outlined in yellow here. So it's basically about half of the middle school wing, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. It's about 12,877 square feet. We have determined that it's a fair rate for Class B office space is $5 a square foot. The tenant's going to occupy, as I said, about half of the middle school and about 18% of the entire building. They will be responsibility for the utilities based on their square footage. They are actually intending to put in a pretty sizable investment into the property of about $80,000 of their own funds to bring it up to what they want it to be and what they need to do there. And that's not town funds. They'll also pay a $325 a month common area maintenance fee, covering landscaping, snow removal, and yearly preventative maintenance, their portion of it. The town will have an annual capital investment lease at this for this portion of the property, capped at $15,000 per year. So the town is not has no intention of being able to put more funds into the space than that. The town will be held harmless from any environmental issues, and as I already indicated on the map, where they plan to occupy for space. So the tenant's a really good, opportune tenant. It's a nonprofit. I think we're pretty fortunate to have had a group like this that's interested in North Stonington. And so basically what we'd like to do tonight is just as much as we can answer questions. Again, this is in negotiations, so I'm not sure that we'll be able to answer all of your questions, but we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity for more public feedback. Before I open it up for any public comments based on this information that I just reviewed, do the selectmen have anything they'd like to add?
This time.
Okay. I have a hand up. I don't know if it's Max, Madeline, or Moss, or Margaret, or Mark, but it's one of them. So you are recognized, whomever this is.
Oh, no. It's Margaret. Oh my gosh, I thought I changed that. Well, hi, it's Margaret Leonard. Wow, okay. My kids were on a Zoom call last time. So I just wanted to, I really only just learned that it's Lighthouse who's interested in the former middle school wing. And I wanted to just come on and tell you how excited I am. When I was in high school, my big sister was actually in the Lighthouse program over in Niantic. And back then it was just this little tiny storefront in a shopping plaza. And while she technically graduated from Wheeler High School, it was in that storefront where she wore her cap and gown and received her diploma. And Lighthouse is just such an incredible asset to the disabled community and especially their families. So for the town of North Stonington to have a tenant like Lighthouse who's interested in investing in our infrastructure is just a huge win for our community.
Thank you for that comment, Margaret. Appreciate that. I think that might be Gary. If I'm getting my phone numbers right. Gary, you're recognized.
I don't think it's
Hey,
Gary.
Mike and Board of Selectmen. Yeah, it is me. I just wanted to clarify that capital investment before anybody jumped on that. That's only if something were to happen, like a boiler failure or something catastrophic. Basically, it allows the town to have an out, I believe, if something major occurs. I'm good.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Gary. And thank you again for your help on this process. Gary's very fortunate to have Gary living here in town does this stuff like it's his job, because it is his job, and has been a great asset to the process as well. So are there any other comments, any other public comments on this? So I'm going to close up. Okay. I have a comment from Brett Mastriani.
Oh, thanks for having this meeting tonight. I have to say I am a little disappointed that we're not having it as a formal town hearing, as most of the surrounding towns do it when something like this happens, and according to the law before final approval. I wish the residents would get a chance to look at the negotiated lease before you guys sign it. If you look into Stonington, when they did it in January, they actually presented the lease. They went over all the numbers at 2 town hearings before the Board of Selectmen voted to approve it, and they let the town really know what was going on. I think it's a great opportunity for the town, but I am disappointed in the process at this point. But I do have a question on the monthly fee. So I can tell you $325 for grounds maintenance and plowing is fantastic. I pay more than that at Holly Green for 1,200 square feet. But what is our liability that we are providing the snow removal and in all the ground maintenance? Because I know when we negotiate contracts for snow removal, that company is also liable if there's an accident or anything that happens. So if the town is providing that service to that building for that business, are we protected there, or is that an opportunity for loss on the town's part?
Thanks for your comment, Brett. Yeah, we'll be going through our attorneys and our insurance company with regards to, anything in regards to liability to make sure we're well covered. So are there any other comments? Yes. Ann Aiken, you are recognized. You just have to unmute, Ann. If you're on the phone, it's *6 to unmute.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
That's okay. Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question about the utilities. It looks like they're paying utilities based on square footage. Now, is that percentage of total square footage or percentage of occupied square footage?
It's percentage of occupied square footage. Christine, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so and some of the utility bills for the building are based on the entire building. So what we did is we took the square footage that they're going to be using, and then if the bill is just for the one-story wing, it's the percentage of the total square footage that they're using of that building, and then for the whole building, it's the 18%. So when you say occupied square footage, we're looking at the whole building as one, and then the amount that they're using as their percentage. So
it's based on their occupancy.
All right. So I guess my point is, for something like water, the entire building isn't using water. Only the occupied part of the building is using water. So it would seem to me that it would be the percentage of the occupied building, because
there's not, since something like water goes to all the restrooms in the building, there's not really a good way to make it that specific, because we do have meetings that are being held in the media center. We have voting that happens in there. There's different things that are being used at different times. So we felt this was the most equitable way to calculate the percentage for the building.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne. Is there any other questions from the public? Yes, I see a hand up from CT Coastal.
Hi there, it's Pam Potemry. I just wanted to really thank the Selectmen for welcoming Lighthouse and their organization into town. As you know, this is also working with disabilities is, kind of my passion and what I focus everything on, and my concern with bringing Lighthouse or even my own organization into the town was that we weren't going to be welcome. And a lot of our students in particular are coming from backgrounds of trauma. And so it would be really difficult to explain to them how this process was, going through without full support of the town. And just through this whole process, seeing, from the beginning of sending out the RFP and even the alternate use of the buildings committee, their work, I really want to thank the Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen, because you've been very supportive, and I look forward to seeing what happens on the two-story wing. I'm happy to see that the RFP is out there. I hope that you consider also that additional space, Mike, that you presented to the Planning and Zoning Committee tonight, for additional use as well, because I think these organizations, our schools, our organizations are a great benefit to the town. So thank you very much for supporting. And I was so happy to hear what Margaret said, because it is such a huge benefit. So to have people in the community recognize the importance of diversity, especially with regard to people with disabilities, is just encouraging. So thank you again.
Thank you, Pam. Sean Murphy, you're recognized.
Yes, I have a question. What is the length of the lease? Are there any option years? And if so, what duration is the option years?
Yeah, we're looking at a 3-year lease with a 3-year option right now.
And if I may, is there anyone not on from the school that can tell us about their programming?
No, they're not on this call, Sean.
I've just, I've previously worked part-time with Curtin Livery, delivering students to schools throughout the state, and at one of them in particular, it was in a warehouse, and after they left the delivery vehicle, they would go through a metal detector before going through and going into what was their school. Evidently, that particular school, they felt that need. Is that type of programming that we're going to have in North Stonington that we might be concerned about our students getting near?
So I'm not going to be able to answer that question, Sean, but I saw that, I know if it's okay with the selectmen, I see that Pam is on the call and has great familiarity with this organization. It'd be okay if I think she probably wants to answer that question. And I appreciate that you're here, Pam. I didn't know you'd even be here. So if that's okay, I'll just recognize Pam to ask to help us with that one. Go ahead, Pam, you're recognized.
Thank you. No, I think, Sean, that's a really valid question. And I think that that is one point that I tried to make even with Connecticut Coastal when I presented our proposal for the RFP previously. I think that there are different levels of private schools and different service providers. I can tell you that I am very familiar with Lighthouse. They deal typically with more developmental disabilities and working on more life skills oriented curriculum and community-based experiences. So you're not talking about adjudicated youth. You're not talking about, maybe that population of students who may have a need to go through a metal detector, for safety and security reasons. That kind of system actually is in place in a lot of public schools. So I don't want to necessarily disparage organizations that do have those safety and security systems in place, but I can tell you from what I know about Lighthouse, and I've been there to, look at their program to, obviously Cassidy and I are looking to partner on several projects. So I can tell you it's not that population of students that would require that level of safety and security. I don't know if that helps to answer that, but I would hope nobody would think that way in terms of Lighthouse or, certainly Connecticut Coastal.
Thank you, Pam.
Yes, I appreciate you clarifying it. That really does answer my question. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Pam. And I just want to mention, I didn't ask Lighthouse certainly to be on this call. This is not a call that they needed to be on. So I just want to mention it's not that they didn't come to this meeting for any reason. They weren't invited to this meeting. So just want to make sure that you're clear about that. I don't know if these hands are meant to be up again. Or if it's just still up from before, but Pam, if you had enough, okay, your hand's down. Sean, is your hand up again for a question?
Yes, but I'd give others the opportunity first.
There's no other hands up, so if you have another question, you can ask.
Yeah, the other question I have, I think you touched on this, and maybe your summary sheet did too, that the town is capped at a $15,000 annual capital investment. Is that right?
Yes, that's what we've have in the proposal at this time. Correct.
What's the definition of your capital investment then?
Like a major catastrophic failure of something.
Yeah, so if we have continuous leaks and repairs to do to the roof or the heating system, the town would be responsible for those, even in excess of 15,000.
No.
What? I don't understand.
We would have $15,000 we would put towards those.
Okay, so it's even.
Yeah, even stuff like that is what we're proposing. So yes, that's what we're proposing, and that's
okay. As long as that's clear in the language of the lease. I didn't see the lease. So, and we know that there is a problem with the balancing of the heat. In that one side of the wing is hot during part of the day, while the other is cold, and vice versa in the afternoon. Is the town going to be expected to fix that problem that we were never able to fix for ourselves?
Well, we're performing maintenance right now to get the building at least in a situation that we aren't spending out the roof over the winter. I mean, these guys aren't going to be in here immediately. And so we want to make sure the building is as efficient as possible right now. So obviously there's new boilers in there, but to get the heat system functioning as well as possible with the equipment we have, the town is trying to do that right now to make sure it's at least functional.
I think you misunderstood what I really was, the question I asked is that wing has a problem with the balance of the heat. One side gets too hot while the other's too cold. They're not like on separate thermostats. They're going to have that same issue. Are they aware of that issue so that we don't have to pay big dollars or our 15 grand trying to fix that problem?
I don't think your familiarity with the issue is quite what the issue is. And I'm not sure that's something we can kind of get into a big discussion about here, but I can just say the town is looking at making sure the heating system is as efficient and functioning properly at this time before anyone's even in there. So we're not paying right now, because we are the ones on the hook for heating that we aren't necessarily using. So I'm
not talking about efficiency. I mean, part of the justification for our new building, one of the complaints is the heat was uncontrollable, and it's still uncontrollable.
Okay, Sean, I'm just
concerned that we're going to have to attempt to fix that when we couldn't fix it for ourselves.
Okay, well, I understand your comment. Do you have any other comments?
Well, is there any language in the lease that protects us from having to fix that problem?
Yes. There will be language that our annual capital investment will be capped at $15,000 per year for catastrophic.
Basic repairs are not a capital investment. They're a repair. They're not investing or adding to the value of the building, which is typically what is considered a capital investment.
Yes.
And I'm just concerned.
Yes, Sean, we're not paying for stuff like that once there's somebody in the building.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a lease available for review in town hall?
No, there's not.
Why?
I'm going to go to other comments right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's 8:30.
Margaret?
Hi, thanks. Yes, and Margaret Leonard again. I just wanted to, just because it doesn't sound like a lot of people other than Pam have firsthand experience with Lighthouse, and the previous comments about safety of the community were very surprising to me, and especially because I do have firsthand experience. Now, I haven't been there in 20 years, as unfortunately my sister passed away 20 years ago, but she did go there up until that point. And my sister was beautiful and was in a wheelchair. She could walk if I walked behind her. She had a few words she could say. She'd call me maybe, because she tried to call me baby with the first letter M before that. She was extremely disabled. And and that's what you have. You have a lot of adults, young adults, high school students who the services at North Stonington just can't handle someone that severely involved. My sister had to be fed with a spoon, like a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. So definitely no one who's dangerous, just the most beautiful souls who unfortunately bodies just did not grow with them. So I just want to clarify the population that will be in that school based on what I'm familiar with from 20 years ago.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Brett Mastriani?
Yeah, I just had a question of really what are you guys are looking to vote on tonight, and if you're voting on it, is it to give you the first selectman and the attorney the authority to negotiate the lease above and beyond what was already negotiated in your executive session amongst the selectmen? And if that changes, do you go back to all the other two selectmen to discuss it before a lease is signed? Just like I said in my initial statement, when I look at the other towns and this happened, it went to the town with the final lease before the selectmen actually signed it. So I'm just concerned that, in those negotiations, if things change, what is the recourse for the other selectmen to know what's going on before a lease is signed? And what's the recourse for the town to know what's going on before a lease is technically signed?
Thanks for your comment, Brett. Yeah, I mean, we're here to listen to feedback from the public, and then we'll talk about what our next steps are after that. And we will follow, by the way, a couple of comments have insinuated like a process situation. We've consulted with the attorney every step of the way, and we are following every proper legal process that we have to in our non-chartered town of North Stonington. We're not a chartered town like Stonington. We have different processes, and we're following those as we need to per legal guidance. Pam?
Thank you. Again, to Margaret's comment, that moves me because it really is all about education and people understanding what it means to have a disability, as opposed to being socially maladaptive, which is, definitely very different than having a disability that is more related to students who are in our legal system. And again, this is not the population of students, but it does kind of open my eyes to the lack of education, and the more that we need to advocate for what it means to be disabled and the different categories of disability. But aside from that, I do think it's important for Sean to know that I did share with Lighthouse prior to them even entering into negotiations with the town, the facility study. So they are fully aware of any of the issues. And, because we were going to originally partner on this, I did meet with them on an extensive call for over an hour about the issues that were known and what they were walking into, and what their obligations would be and what they should be thinking about in terms of capital improvements on their section of the building. So I want to reassure Sean that they're not going in there blind. They're not going in there, kind of cold, not knowing the situation, that they are fully aware of that.
Thank you, Pam. Are there any other comments? Brian Rathman, you're recognized.
Yep, am I on?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Hi, Selectmen. Hi, everybody.
Brian.
Anyways, I got here late, obviously, and I printed out what was put out there, and I was reading it. I'm a little confused. I know I got here late. Maybe you already hit the issues, but it looked like there's $3,900 a year. Is it a year for maintenance? And if I figured it right, it's a yearly thing, the 325. Is that a month?
That's a month.
Okay, so it'll be 64,385 a year. If you add the both up, it's 68,285. And we're going to kick in basically what I look at is 15,000 a year. I'm going to have to pay out of my taxes. So it's
No, you're not going to have to pay that unless there's something catastrophically wrong at the building. That's basically only if we have to put in, if there was something that we had to contribute to that was
okay. Well, I know one of the big things with that school was it wasn't safe, and I'm a little nervous about that. That's why we built the new school.
So Brian, you came in late. I think rather than me re-go over what I did for the first 20 minutes,
Okay.
maybe you could give me a call and I'd be happy to re-review it with you in respect for everyone's time. The
Okay,
tenant's going to be.
I got two other points.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. The tenant's going to put in $80,000 of their own money to invest in the building, just so you know.
All right.
Good.
There's, if you lease it out, I think it's important that we close the tunnel off because we won't know who's going. People have access to the new school, and that was one of the safety issues. That's why they wanted fences in the school and this and that across the road, so everybody's on the same side and it's protected. But the other thing I'd like to ask is, has the town approached any of our, like the 4-H? We have a school there. 4-H is educational. Maybe they could use part of the school to teach our kids about the agriculture of our town, which I thought our town was agricultural. And I think that would be an avenue we could check. And that's one of my big things is I want to see our town use, if we're going to use a school, which it should have been torn down as far as I'm concerned, but that already been turned over. But I'd like to see the our town used for our people right now. And it's only 49% of the school. So who's going to use the other 51%? I don't know. Are we going to be required to pay for that?
That is the topic for another day, but thank you for your comment. We're going to discuss the lease on this one particular section tonight. Ann Aiken, you're recognized.
Yes, you mentioned that there is work being done on the school right now. What line item in the budget is that coming out of, Christine?
So we're having to do basic work that is work that we have no choice but to do in order just to make the building functional, I guess you'd say. And that would be, we have the heating system, which is, we just want to make sure it's functioning properly. As far as what line item that is coming out of, at this point, it's coming out of the highway line item. However, we may end up going to the town to square that away after the winter, depending on what it looks like. I think the hope that I have anyway, and this is the hope that I think we should all have, is that if we get this building rented out sooner than later, we will have revenue coming in that will offset not only the amounts that we had to do certain basic things on the building, but also the amounts that the utilities will have cost us over the winter. So that's why I have the urgency and have tried to be as aggressive as possible in getting this rented out as immediate as possible. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that. Do you have an estimate of what the work is going to come to be?
I don't have that right now, no.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Sean Murphy, you're recognized.
Yes, Mike, you mentioned that the lighthouse will put in up to $80,000 a year?
No.
I think on the summary sheet, or what, go ahead, what was it? Want to clarify that?
They are currently planning on, this is what I've been told, putting in about $80,000 worth of renovations into the building now. That doesn't mean that's all they're ever going to put into the building. I'm sure they're going to do other things. And besides the fact that they're a nonprofit, it opens them up to being able to probably do more things, potentially through grant funding to help improve the building even more so. But that's just their initial investment in what they have to do. They feel they have to do to get the space to a point where they can occupy it.
Does the language of the lease require them to put it in, or are they just planning to put it in?
They're just planning to put it in.
So we have no commitment.
Well, they have to. They're not, I mean, in order for them to in order for them to feel that they can occupy the space, they're going to do what they feel like they have to do to have a space that they can occupy with their students. So, yeah, that's.
But you're basically verifying that it's not required by the lease.
Sean, when we put the RFP out, it was a part of the proposal that they submitted to the town. So it was their offer that they were going to do these things because they felt they needed to occupy the space. It's not that the town has identified $80,000 worth of repairs that we're asking them to do.
So we can't absolutely count on $80,000 worth of improvement.
No, I mean, I guess they could just say, no, we're not going to do anything to the school. We think but that's not, I'm telling you, that's not the case. I mean, I've talked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not the case. So.
And is there a cost benefit analysis, some sort of budget of revenue versus worst case scenario expenses that's been done to show that this is going to be profitable, and is that available to the public?
That's not something that's available to the public. And again, we're still in the negotiations process, though. We've basically kind of settled on the terms that we're comfortable with. So
you're not done negotiating, but statute requires you to have a hearing, a town hearing, when the final lease is signed, before the final lease is signed.
No, thank you for your comment, Sean. Appreciate it. Is there any other comments? Okay, hearing no other comments, I'm going to close off public comment. I want to mention that we have followed everything legally. The town attorney is in fact even on the line tonight. We are going to follow the law as we always do with the process that we have to follow on this. We've already gone, as a reminder for those who may not have been a part of the process, we actually went to referendum, and a referendum vote passed authorizing us to move forward with leasing of this space. So everything has been done. The T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted. So what I would propose tonight, after hearing everyone's feedback and after the meetings that have taken place and after the process that we're working and putting Lighthouse, and they've been very, very patient through, I'd like to move this forward to the point where I can move forward to actually negotiate kind of a final lease here based on these terms. So what I'd like to see tonight is a motion from the selectmen to empower the first selectman to finalize the negotiations of the lease for the aforementioned space discussed this evening. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Further discussion on this? Good, Bob.
So, Mike, I'm hearing the public comment. One thing I did take note of is if you are negotiating with the town attorney, I believe he'll be with you. If there's any change to the lease as we know it, as the subcommittee that was in charge of working on the lease agreement, has anything substantially changed that you would bring it back to the Board of Selectmen for review before signing?
I would absolutely say if there were any substantial changes, and I would say I would define a substantial change as anything that we've really talked about tonight. You know, that's what I would define as substantial changes. So as long as we're in agreement with that, yes, I think, you know, what I don't want to continue to do, I think we've been patient. I think we've tried to work really hard with the transparency and continuing to have that public dialogue, because I know it's really important and we want that. I know we all want that. But there does come a time where we have to just kind of pull the trigger and try to make this happen. So I think that's what we're trying to accomplish tonight. We've gone, in my opinion, even the extra mile, you know, going to an actual vote on this. I'm not sure that that's even something that, I'm not saying that we wouldn't have voted, you know, if we had the town meeting process, maybe we would have been able to just do it at a town meeting. We actually went to referendum on this. I mean, we've gone the extra mile on this process. And I think we're very fortunate, as described tonight, to have a tenant of the caliber of Lighthouse that's at the table here with us. So I absolutely agree to come back with any material changes in any of these things that we have discussed this evening. You know, that would be no problem at all.
I do want to comment on Brian Rathman's comment about 4-H groups and groups in town. And that would be nice, Brian, but as one like yourself, and I'll be retired shortly, so I'll be on a fixed income also, we worry about our taxes. And the idea of these buildings, leasing them out, is to bring money to the town to help offset a tax burden. So we could fill the buildings with 4-H and other things. That would be wonderful, but they wouldn't be tenants who would be paying for rent or lease. So I think, again, it would be nice to do, but the idea with these buildings, since, as you said, I had hoped that the middle school had been torn down and we were just dealing with the 2-story wing at this time, but we're not. So we have to take of this situation, make the best thing we can do for the town. And the best thing to do is, instead of having 2 empty buildings, we have tenants in them, so we can bring income into the town. So that's all I want to say about his comment. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments or discussion on the terms of the, anything else you want to talk about before we call for a vote?
I move that we make a vote. Take a vote.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. I'd just like to thank the selectmen, and especially Gary and Nino and Christine, for your extra work on you know, taking the time, and Attorney Rabavina to go through this process. It was a good process, and certainly I think something that the town will be pretty proud of when we're all done with it. So we'll report back, and with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Everybody have a good night. Thank you very much.